What do you feel went wrong in that game, especially that third quarter where I feel like the script flipped?
Yeah, well, I want to give them a ton of credit, right? Dean does a heck of a job of organizing his team and things being prepared. And obviously, I thought we had some momentum and some breaks in the half, right? In the first half. And, we started out where maybe our execution on one end wasn't as good as it should have been, and it affected the other end, and everybody's going to talk about the offense, and I believe it was probably the other way, right? Our defense wasn't as set, wasn't as organized as we needed to be, unfortunately, and, you give them a lot of credit because what happens is when teams pressure you, right? Pressure turns you inward. Everybody wants to play one-on-one, and that's the time you have to rely on your teammates, and the ball's got to move on one end. And then as you get back and you try to set your defense, if you don't execute the way you want to on offense, then it's going to affect your defense. We didn't get organized. We couldn't get between our guy and the basket, and our communication system was just a step slow. But I give our guys credit. We tried to hang in there. I thought we were saying even the right things in the timeouts. They were trying. We never splintered or came apart or had any adversity that way. It was us trying to get organized, and today was just a case of one end of the court affecting the other.
What's the lesson in that where Kendrick and DJ go up against Shea Illy, and Delvedova, those guys, having that high pressure, that early connection? What's the lesson you take?
Yeah, well, I think as a young group, we're always trying to be connected, right? This group has not been together a long time. We haven't been in a lot of road games like this yet, right? I mean, just a couple of them, right? Cairns, Illawarra, and now here. So it's a different game when you go on the road, right? We travel over here. You're trying to get organized and trying to get your game plan set. So us connecting and moving forward and growing, I think every one of these situations for us, trying to move our group forward to be the best version that we can, right? I mean, okay, so the scoreboard wasn't in our favor today, but there's a lot of lessons as this group moves forward.
You've spoken about the challenges of shifting toward playing the two bigs. That obviously comes with less spacing.
Yeah.
Did you notice that in particular tonight, and how do you move forward from that?
Yeah, well, I think that those are always different challenges, as in how your team operates, whether it's offensively or defensively, right? I mean, the spacing, whether that is on the defensive end of the floor and how you rotate and things that you do switch and don't switch, particularly against teams that shoot the three, right? Even White and Lowe are guys that pick and pop and shoot the threes, and that's kind of like a everybody knows that, teams are going to try to get your size up and out of the paint and put you on the move, right? And they're going to play pick and roll. So it's one of those things of getting back. So the communication between the big and the guard in that situation and getting back is really huge. Offensively, the ball just didn't move the way it needed to move because they did a great job with pressure, right? And that slows down your pace a lot of times, right? Our defense wasn't as efficient as we needed to be, so we're taking the ball out of the net a little bit more. And now we're going against a set defense a little bit more. Now you feel the spacing a little bit more than you do when we're getting stops and you're running, right? I mean, it's always sort of a give and take, yin and yang on that kind of stuff. And today you felt it a little bit more on the offensive end. I was more worried about the defensive end.
Was it made all the more harder, just the fact that they've got so many weapons? It's just hard to you stop one, another one bobs up? Yeah,
I mean, I thought that they've got great talent. They've got a lot of shooting, right? And they've got good size across, the board, positional size. And with Delhi and the guys kind of, pressing up and bringing pressure, right? There's always some different challenges there on how you operate your offense. But, yes, the answer your question in a short way is, yeah, and you got to know personnel. You got to know what their strengths are, and you got to try to limit some of those things and not allow them to get to their strengths. They got to their strengths a little bit more than we would like to, obviously.
Now, you've been on a bit of a high, three-game winning streak. Does a game like this, I suppose, just show how far you've got to go, I suppose, to get to these championship contending teams?
No, I mean, I think that as our group, like I kind of said in the beginning, as we're trying to change who the Sixers have been the last few years. And we've got some different players coming in, and that, we're still trying to grow as a group. That includes me. Still learning the group and some of our strengths and things and what we try to do. But, like today, it's just another lesson for us to move the group forward. I mean, I think that there's always positives in wins and losses. Sometimes as a head coach, right, it gets a little bit easier if you lose. I mean, to go ahead and teach that and keep your attention to the detail. We've had some very, very good wins. Those 3 wins were really good. And now we get to move the group forward and teach and correct from a losing perspective. And we'll start that process on Tuesday with the group, and we'll get ready, as we go through the week and what our buildup is to try to bring the group back to whole, and we get better and we move the group forward and be ready to hopefully play our best game that we can on Sunday.
What is it seemed like the bigs got less opportunities in the second half. They didn't touch the ball as more. The attempts were down. What do you put that down to, and how do you remedy that?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that we had a lot of different, we were out of spacing situations, and you talk about spacing with the bigs, but there was less organized basketball, as in that's what you're seeing and that's what you were feeling. We got more downhill in the first half. We got more into the paint in the first half, and then the ball went from one side to the second side to the third side. That's where you kind of you can generate offense, right, when the ball goes from inside out. You didn't see that as much, right, because we were taking the ball out of the net a little bit more. So, we got to just keep working. We're a work in progress. We'll get better at that. We'll get more organized. However Kendrick gets downhill and things like that. I would say that I really did appreciate the effort from our group and the things that they were trying to do. Everybody feels that frustration during the flow of the game, but what it was everybody was still talking and communicating, and that is a huge sign of growth for a young group.
Max Beckley, how do you combat a defensive style of play like Dean Vickerman and Melbourne United implement?
Yeah, well, you've got to handle the physicality, and you got to talk about how you want to execute your offense through what they're trying to do. And that's a very, very difficult thing to do, right? So there's different things. I won't go into details right here, right? Obviously, I don't have all the answers today because we couldn't get to some of those things. But, your overall game plan has got to be playing with pace and thrust, and you got to try to go right at them and attack that and put them back on their heels. And they had the upper hand a little bit on that today.
You mentioned a couple of times trying to change, I guess, this Adelaide 36's identity and what they've been over the past 3 to 5 years. How are you trying to change that identity and find a new identity?
Yeah, well, I think you've seen our style of play. I think you've seen, us do some really good things on both ends of the court and, home and away. Unfortunately, you didn't see the best version of us today, but I think we have a group that is committed to winning and trying to do the right thing. Like I've said in a few post-game press conferences, they've been absolutely fantastic to coach. Very, very coachable and willing, and we tried to do some different things and implement different things and give them like a structure and language and terminology that they can rely on when things do get tough out there. That's what I was hearing in the timeouts. That is an absolute positive that we will take away from this. And as we move forward this week in our prep, that's something we have the foundation to be good. We've done that. We've won against Sydney at home. We've won on the road against Illawarra. This is going to be a process as this group keeps changing and evolving, and we'll add Jarrell Martin back in here, and all of a sudden we'll change it again, but that's part of teams and everything I think coaches have to deal with today as we're, constantly team in a very individualized sport these days.
How far away Jarrell is?
I have no idea. I'm not the right guy to ask. To be honest with you, I haven't even really looked until he gets back on the floor, and then when he's on the floor, then we'll go.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.